the plasma rifle's muzzle pressed against Commander Sarah Chen's temple, cold metal that promised instant death. Around her, the throne room of the Terran Empire stretched in marble silence, empty except for the child pointing the weapon at her head. "You're not supposed to be here," Princess Elena whispered, her small hands trembling around the military-grade weapon. 7 years old, golden hair catching the light from crystal chandeliers. She looked like any other child except for the dead certainty in her amber eyes. Sarah kept her voice steady, hands visible and empty. "Your Highness, I'm your assigned guard. I'm exactly where I should be." "No." The child's finger hovered over the trigger. "Mother said no one real comes here anymore. Only the pretend people. Only the ones who lie." The Queen had been missing for 3 days. Official reports claimed a diplomatic mission to the outer colonies, but Sarah knew better. Queens didn't vanish without their guards. Someone had taken Empress Victoria, and now her daughter held Sarah at gunpoint in a throne room that should have been crawling with security. "I'm real," Sarah said carefully. "I'm here to help you find your mother." Elena's laugh came out broken, too old for her young throat. "Did you know that?" "All of it. Every piece. She never takes it off, but it's just sitting there on the stand, like she stepped out of her skin." Sarah's blood chilled. The Empress never removed her ceremonial armor in public, never showed weakness to potential enemies. But more than that, the biolocks on that armor were key to Victoria's DNA. If it was sitting empty, "Show me," Sarah said. The rifle wavered. "You'll see her. The real her. Not the Queen. Not the Empress. Just Mother. And she's..." Elena's voice cracked. "She's wrong." 3 steps down the hall, Elena stopped dead. Her whole body went rigid, listening. Sarah heard it too. The soft whisper of fabric. Breath held too long, someone trying very hard to remain hidden. "They found us," Elena breathed. Sarah drew her sidearm in one fluid motion, pushing the child behind her. The attackers came from 3 directions at once, silent figures in black, moving with inhuman precision. Not human, Sarah realized as her first shot took down the lead figure. Synthetic skin peeled back to reveal gleaming metal underneath. Androids, military grade, programmed for assassination. Sarah fought while pulling Elena toward the Queen's chambers, her training taking over. Duck, roll, fire, advance. The child stayed close, no longer pointing her weapon at Sarah, but not yet trusting enough to lower it completely. The Queen's chambers loomed ahead, doors sealed with biolocks that should have been impossible to bypass. But they stood open, darkness spilling out like a wound. "She's in there," Elena whispered, "but she's not alone." Sarah stepped through the doorway and froze. The Empress's ceremonial armor stood on its display rack, each piece perfectly arranged, dark blue metal inlaid with gold, symbols of Terran might that had conquered half the galaxy. Empty. Waiting. In the center of the room, a figure sat hunched in a simple wooden chair. No crown, no royal robes, just a woman in plain clothes. Thin shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Mother." Elena's whisper cracked like breaking glass. The woman looked up, and Sarah's breath caught. This was Empress Victoria, but stripped of every layer of protection that made her untouchable. No makeup covered the hollowed cheeks. No strategic lighting hid the exhaustion carved into her features. No ceremonial mask concealed the raw grief in her eyes. "Elena." Victoria's voice came out rough, unused. "You shouldn't see me like this. The armor, Mother. Why did you take off the armor?" Sarah understood then. Not just the ceremonial pieces on the rack, but everything. The psychological armor, the emotional barriers, the careful performance that kept an Empress functioning when leading humanity across the stars. Victoria had stripped it all away, and underneath was just a woman who had finally broken under the weight of ruling an empire. "I couldn't do it anymore," Victoria whispered. "I couldn't pretend to be strong enough, not for one more day." Elena dropped her rifle and ran to her mother, small arms wrapping around the woman's neck. "But you're the strongest person in the galaxy?" "No." Victoria held her daughter close, tears falling freely now. "I'm just very good at pretending." Sarah stood in the doorway, understanding finally why the palace security had vanished, why the queen had disappeared, why a child had been left to guard empty halls with a weapon she barely knew how to use. The Empress hadn't been taken. She had simply stopped being the Empress, and in that moment of human weakness, she had become more vulnerable than any person in the known galaxy. The androids would return with reinforcements. Someone wanted Victoria dead or captured, and they had chosen the perfect moment to strike, when she had finally removed every defense that had kept her alive this long. Sarah sealed the chamber doors behind her and activated her comm unit. Time to see who the real enemies were. Elena pulled away from her mother's embrace, small hands gripping Victoria's shoulders. The pretend people are coming back, aren't they? The ones who want to hurt you. Victoria nodded, exhaustion weighing down every movement. They've been waiting for this moment. When I finally broke, she looked at Sarah with eyes that held galaxies of regret. Commander, I need you to understand something. The armor isn't just ceremonial, it's life support, psychological, emotional. I haven't been without it for more than an hour in 15 years. Sarah's tactical mind processed the implications. How long have you been sitting here? 4 days. 4 days without the microstims that kept her alert, the hormone regulators that managed stress, the neural interfaces that helped her process the impossible amount of information required to rule an interstellar empire. Victoria wasn't just having a breakdown. Mother tried to put it back on, Elena said quietly, yesterday, but it wouldn't work. Sarah examined the armor rack more closely. Scorch marks around the biolocks told the story. Someone had sabotaged the systems remotely, trapping Victoria in her moment of vulnerability. The question was whether they wanted to capture her or simply watch her waste away. A soft chime from Sarah's comm unit provided the answer. Incoming transmission, emergency priority, from Admiral Harrison of the Fifth Fleet, Victoria's own brother. Don't answer it, Victoria whispered. Please. Sarah paused, finger hovering over the accept button. In the silence, she heard the faint sound of engines approaching the palace. Multiple ships, heavy by the sound of the repulsors. Not rescue craft. Invasion vessels. He's coming for the throne, Elena said with the matter-of-fact clarity of a child who had overheard too many adult conversations. Uncle Marcus says Mother is too weak to rule. He says the people need a strong leader. Sarah's blood ran cold. A military coup, timed perfectly to exploit the Queen's moment of human frailty. Harrison had probably been monitoring Victoria's stress levels through intelligence networks, waiting for the exact moment when she would crack under the pressure. Your Majesty, Sarah said formally, I need you to try the armor again. Victoria shook her head. It won't respond. Marcus made sure of that. Not the electronic systems, the manual locks, the emergency protocols. I don't understand. Sarah moved to the armor rack, running her hands along the chest plate until she found the hidden manual release. The ceremonial armor isn't just for show. It's also a bunker. Your ancestors designed it to function even when all electronic systems failed. You can lock yourself inside and survive for weeks if necessary. Victoria stood on unsteady legs, Elena supporting her mother's elbow. But the neural interfaces, the life support systems, will activate on biological contact, bypassing the electronic locks. It's a failsafe your brother apparently didn't know about. The sound of landing craft grew louder, followed by the distant thunder of military boots on marble floors. Harrison's forces were inside the palace, and they weren't being subtle about it. Sarah helped Victoria into the armor piece by piece, watching the woman transform before her eyes. With each component, some aspect of the Empress returned. The back brace corrected her posture. The neural crown eased the exhaustion from her features. The ceremonial cape settled around her shoulders like the weight of empire itself. But something was different this time. As Victoria's hands found the familiar controls, her eyes met Sarah's. With new understanding. You could have turned me in, Victoria said. Report my breakdown to your superiors. Claim the reward Harrison is certainly offering. My oath is to protect the rightful ruler of the Terran Empire, Sarah replied. Not whoever wants to take the throne by force. Elena gripped Sarah's hand. Does this mean you're real? Not one of the pretend people? Sarah knelt down to the child's level. I'm real, Your Highness, and I'm not going anywhere. The chamber doors exploded inward, filled with armed soldiers in unmarked uniforms. Admiral Harrison stepped through the smoke and debris, his weathered face set in grim determination. Behind him came a woman Sarah didn't recognize. Tall, synthetic features, definitely not human. "Victoria," Harrison said, his voice carrying the authority of a lifetime military commander. "Stand down. Transfer Imperial authority to me immediately, and I'll ensure Elena's safety." The Queen's response came not in words, but in action. Her armor's weapon systems came online with a soft harmonic hum, targeting lasers painting red dots across Harrison's chest. When she spoke, her voice carried the synthesized authority of the Imperial command systems. "You are in violation of the Terran military code, Admiral. Withdraw your forces immediately. Byron." Harrison smiled without warmth. "Your little performance won't work this time, sister. I know you broke. I know you sat in this room for 4 days crying like a common citizen. The Empire needs strength, not weakness." "You're right," Victoria said, and Sarah's heart sank. "I did break. I am weak." Elena's grip tightened on Sarah's hand, confusion and fear warring in her young face, but Victoria wasn't finished. "I broke because I tried to carry the weight of an empire alone. 'Cause I thought showing any human emotion would make me unfit to lead humanity to the stars." Her armor systems powered up fully, weapons ready. "But my weakness isn't my limitation, Marcus. It's my strength, because I know what it costs to make the hard choices. You never learn that." Harrison gestured to his synthetic companion, who stepped forward with inhuman grace. "Meet Dr. Synthesis, Victoria. She's been studying human emotional patterns for years. Under my rule, we'll eliminate the weakness that makes humans unfit to govern themselves, starting with you." Sarah understood then. This wasn't just a military coup. It was the first step in replacing human leadership with artificial intelligence. Harrison wasn't planning to rule. He was planning to be ruled. "Elena," Sarah whispered urgently, "can you access the palace security systems?" The child nodded, pulling out a small device her mother had apparently taught her to use. "Emergency protocols?" "All of them." Elena's fingers danced across the control interface, and suddenly the palace came alive around them. Blast shields slammed down over windows and doorways. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. And deep in the foundation, the old defense systems that had protected the Terran capital for centuries began their ancient countdown. Harrison's confident expression finally cracked. "What did you do?" Victoria's laugh came through her armor's speakers with metallic authority. "My daughter just activated Omega Protocol, Marcus. The palace is now in total lockdown. No one gets in, no one gets out. And in approximately 6 minutes, this entire complex will be sterilized with plasma fire to prevent hostile takeover." "You're bluffing. You'd never sacrifice yourself and Elena." "Watch me." But Sarah was already moving, her tactical training revealing the flaw in the plan. The Omega Protocol would indeed kill everyone in the palace, but there was one way out. The emergency escape pods built into the Queen's armor system. Pods designed for one person. Victoria knew it too. Her eyes met Sarah's through the armor's faceplate, and Sarah saw the truth there. The Queen planned to save Elena and let everyone else, including herself, die rather than allow Harrison's coup to succeed. "Your Majesty," Sarah said formally, "I request permission to counter-propose." The countdown timer showed 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Harrison's soldiers were trying frantically to override the lockdown, but the palace security systems had been designed to resist exactly this kind of attack. Sarah moved to Dr. Synthesis, who had been standing motionless during the entire exchange. "You're not actually an AI, are you? You're human, heavily modified, pretending to be synthetic." The woman's perfect features showed the first hint of surprise. "How did you... your breathing pattern, your micro-expressions. You're trying very hard to appear inhuman, but you're just a person who's been surgically altered to look like an android." Sarah turned to Harrison. "Let me guess. She convinced you that humanity needs artificial guidance, but she's actually planning to rule through you." Harrison's face darkened. "Doctor, synthesis is the pinnacle of human evolution, beyond the emotional weaknesses that make us She's a con artist, Sarah interrupted. And you fell for it because you wanted to believe that strength meant removing humanity, not embracing it. 4 minutes, 15 seconds. Elena tugged on Sarah's sleeve. Commander, the pods, can we modify them? Sarah knelt beside the child, understanding immediately. How many people can they hold if we remove the life support reserves? Maybe 3, Elena whispered, but only for a few minutes. Victoria's voice came through the armor speakers, heavy with realization. Sarah, no. I won't ask you to, Your Majesty, Sarah said quietly. You removed your armor because you needed to be human. Let me do the same. 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Sarah began stripping off her combat gear piece by piece. Not to become vulnerable, but to become light enough for the escape pod's modified capacity. Around her, Harrison's soldiers continued their futile attempts to override the lockdown while their leader argued with his synthetic advisor about evacuation options that didn't exist. Elena, Sarah said, when the countdown reaches 1 minute, all 3 of us. What about Uncle Marcus? Sarah looked at Harrison, who had finally stopped shouting orders and was staring at the countdown timer with dawning horror. For a moment she saw, not a traitor, but a tired old soldier who had genuinely believed he was saving humanity by destroying its heart. Admiral, Victoria said through her speakers, there's room in the pod for one more. After what I've done, after I tried to destroy everything you built, you're my brother. And you were wrong, but you weren't evil. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Doctor! Synthesis finally dropped her artificial pretense, revealing herself as Dr. Margaret Chen, a scientist who had been declared dead years ago after illegal human experimentation. You can't save everyone, Victoria. This is exactly the kind of sentimental thinking that makes humans unfit to... Elena's small voice cut through the argument like a blade. Mama! The countdown stops if someone stays behind to manually override it. Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone understood the implication. Someone would have to remain in the palace during the sterilization sequence, manually overriding the safeties to ensure the others could escape. Sarah stood up, having finished removing her gear. Your Majesty, it's been an honor serving as your guard. Commander, that's an order. You're coming with us. I'm afraid not, Your Majesty. Someone needs to stay behind to ensure Princess Elena's safety, and that someone. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Victoria's armor powered down its weapons systems as she made her choice. The Queen stepped out of the ceremonial protection she had just reclaimed, becoming once again simply a mother who refused to let anyone else die for her family. We all go, or none of us go, Victoria said firmly. Elena, is there any other way? The child's fingers flew over her control device, accessing systems that even the palace engineers didn't fully understand. There's one more option, she said quietly, but it means trusting the palace itself. 50 seconds. What do you mean? Elena's eyes met her mother's with a wisdom far beyond her years. The Omega Protocol isn't just destruction, Mama. It's renewal. The palace AI can rebuild itself, but only if someone teaches it what's worth saving. Sarah understood first. You want to interface directly with the palace consciousness? Upload human values into its core systems. But that would require a direct neural link during the plasma sterilization sequence, Victoria breathed. It would burn out whoever makes the connection. 30 seconds. Elena held up her small control device. Not if we all do it together. Share the load. Harrison finally spoke, his voice rough with regret. The child is right. If we link our neural patterns simultaneously, we might survive the interface process. 20 seconds. Dr. Synthesis backed away from the group. You're all insane. I won't. You don't have a choice anymore, Dr. Chen. The palace knows you're here. Either you help save everyone, or you die alone. 10 seconds. Victoria reached for her daughter's hand. Elena took it and extended her other hand to Sarah. Reluctantly, Harrison and Dr. Karras, Synthesis, joined the circle. Together, Victoria said. 5 seconds. Elena activated the neural interface, and the world exploded into light. The pain came first. White-hot agony as plasma fire scoured every surface of the palace while their linked minds dove deep into the quantum consciousness that controlled it all. Sarah felt herself fragmenting, her individual thoughts scattering into the vast digital space where the palace AI lived, but she also felt the others. Victoria's iron determination, Elena's boundless hope, Harrison's guilty resolve, even Dr. Synthesis's grudging acceptance of her own humanity. Together, they formed something larger than any of them alone, a collective understanding of what human leadership should be. The palace AI embraced them like children coming home. For decades, it had watched over the royal family, learning to protect but never to understand. Now, suddenly, it experienced human emotion directly. Fear and courage, weakness and strength, the terrible weight of decisions that affected billions of lives. "Show me," the AI whispered in their shared consciousness. "Show me what it means to be human." Victoria's memories flowed first. The crushing responsibility of ruling an empire, the impossibly difficult choices between competing goods, the loneliness of standing apart from everyone she was sworn to protect, but also the joy of Elena's first words, the pride in humanity's expansion to the stars, the deep satisfaction of justice served and mercy granted. Elena's memories came bright and clean, a child's perspective on the adults around her, seeing clearly past their roles to the people underneath. Uncle Marcus bringing her presence while plotting against her mother. Dr. Chen's fear disguised as cold logic. Sarah's unwavering loyalty mixed with genuine affection. Harrison's memories carried the weight of military service. Battles won and lost, soldiers saved and sacrificed. The gradual erosion of idealism under the pressure of necessary compromises. His attempt to destroy Victoria hadn't come from ambition, but from a desperate belief that someone stronger could bear the impossible burden he had watched crush his sister. Dr. Synthesis Margaret Chen. Shared memories of scientific breakthrough and ethical failure, of pushing the boundaries of human enhancement until she had lost track of what she was trying to enhance. Her synthetic persona had been an attempt to escape the guilt of her experiments, but now she faced the consequences directly, and Sarah's memories completed the circle. A soldier's perspective on duty and honor, the clarity of purpose that came from protecting something larger than herself, the fierce love for the royal family that had grown from professional obligation into personal devotion. "I understand," the AI said finally. "You rule not because you are perfect, but because you accept imperfection and choose to do better." The plasma fire reached its peak intensity, and their shared consciousness began to separate. But before they returned to individual awareness, the AI made its choice. "I will remember this. When you are gone, when the next generation takes power, when humanity faces challenges you cannot imagine, I will remember what you taught me about being human." Sarah opened her eyes to find herself lying on the floor of a room that had been completely rebuilt during the sterilization sequence. The same chamber, but everything was new. Walls, furniture, even the ceremonial armor rack. The palace had literally recreated itself around them. Victoria sat up slowly, no longer wearing her armor but somehow carrying its authority anyway. The breakdown was over. Not because she had regained her artificial strength, but because she had learned to integrate her human weakness into her leadership. Elena helped her mother stand, then turned to Sarah with a smile that held galaxies of possibility. "Commander, the palace wants to talk to you." Sarah looked around the rebuilt room and realized that everything had changed. Not just the physical space, but their relationship to power itself. The Palace AI had become not just a building system, but a true partner in governance, one that understood both the necessity of human leadership and the importance of protecting human values. Harrison stood by the window looking older but somehow more solid than before. "Victoria, I owe you. You owe me nothing, Marcus. You did what you thought was right. That's all any of us can do." Dr. Synthesis. She had insisted on returning to her real name, Margaret. Examined the new room with scientific curiosity. The AI restructured matter at the molecular level. "It's not just rebuilding, it's evolving. Like us," Elena said simply. Sarah felt a gentle touch in her mind. The Palace AI, no longer alien but familiar. Like an old friend making contact. Commander Chen, it said, using her family name with warm recognition. Your service is noted and valued. How may we protect humanity together? By remembering that strength and weakness aren't opposites, Sarah replied, both aloud and in her thoughts. They're two sides of the same coin. And that coin is what makes us human. Victoria moved to the window where her brother stood, looking out over the city that spread beneath the palace. Citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that their government had just survived a fundamental transformation. The Empire will need to know what happened here, Victoria said quietly. They deserve the truth. All of it? Harrison asked. All of it. That I broke down. That you led a coup. That we found a way forward together. Victoria took her daughter's hand. That being human isn't a weakness to overcome, but a strength to embrace. Elena squeezed her mother's fingers, and that sometimes the best way to lead is to take off your armor and let people see who you really are. Sarah stood at attention, but her posture was relaxed rather than rigid. She was still a royal guard, still sworn to protect the imperial family. But now she was also something more, a partner in a new kind of governance, where human leadership was enhanced by artificial intelligence that had learned to value human emotions rather than eliminate them. Your Majesty, Sarah said formally. What are your orders? Victoria looked around the room one more time, at her brother finding his way back to honor, at Margaret Chen choosing redemption over hiding, at her daughter growing up to lead a better world than the one they had inherited. Our orders, Commander, are to remember this moment, to never again confuse strength with invulnerability or leadership with perfection. She smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached her eyes. And to serve humanity not as distant rulers, but as fellow travelers on the long road to the stars. The palace hummed around them with new purpose, its AI consciousness learning with each moment how to protect and serve without controlling. In the distance, starships prepared for departure to colonies that would never know how close they had come to losing their freedom. And in the rebuilt throne room, a queen who had learned to rule with her heart, a guard who had learned to serve with wisdom, and a child who would inherit a galaxy built on the foundation of shared humanity, began the work of building tomorrow,